Looks like we have all five of us. We're waiting for anybody else, Jennifer? All right, then I'll go ahead and call the meeting of the Board of Public Utilities for the City of Santa Rosa to order. If we may have a roll call, please.
Yes, Chair Galvin.
Here.
Vice Chair Arnone.
Here.
Board Member Badenford. Board Member Grable.
Here.
Board Member Walsh.
Here.
Board Member Watts. Board Member Wright.
Here.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Reminder to mute your phones and microphones when you're not speaking and to put away your cell phones and personal computers. We'll move to item 2, which is statement of abstention by board members. Do we have any? Seeing none, we have no study sessions. Next item is the minutes. We'll take public comments on the minutes for April 7th, 2022. If you wish to speak, make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Etha?
We have no public comments.
Very good. The minutes will be approved and entered. We'll now move to our staff briefing, item 5.1, water supply update. Director Burke.
Thank you, Chair Galvin and members of the board. Item 5.1 is our water supply update, and Deputy Director of Water Resources, Peter Martin, will be making the presentation.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Galvin and members of the board. Happy to be here before you today with the water supply update. If we could go to the next slide, slide number 2. Just kind of working our way down the watershed, gonna provide some updates on our storage in Sonoma Waters reservoirs. As of today, storage in Lake Mendocino has been ticking up a bit. It's about 46,275 acre feet, which is about 55% of storage capacity for this time of year. That represents about a little less than 1,000 acre feet change over last week. So Lake Mendocino is picking up some storage. As of today, releases from Lake Mendocino are at about 25 cubic feet per second. Just a reminder that Sonoma Water is operating under an existing temporary change order, which allows them to reduce their releases from the 2 reservoirs based upon the storage in Lake Mendocino. As of today, that storage threshold is 53,000 acre feet. Next slide. And then Lake Sonoma storage actually has gained a little bit over the last week, not much, but better than the losses they're experiencing in the reservoir over the last couple of weeks. Storage is at 143,500 acre feet, which is about 58.5% of water supply capacity. That represents about a 200 acre foot increase in storage over the last 7 days, and releases are currently at 60 cubic feet per second. Next slide. Just wanted to summarize our water savings for the city of Santa Rosa. As you'll recall, back in July of 2021, the City Council enacted Stage 3 of our water shortage contingency plan, asking the community for a 20% community-wide reduction in water use compared to 2020. In March last month, Santa Rosa residents reduced their water by 10% compared to 2020. It was a very dry March, if you'll recall. So people have been irrigating, but we typically see those water savings really occur in the summer. So have slipped a little bit in terms of our cumulative reductions. Water use has been reduced by 20% compared to 2020. So we still are on target, but over the next few months, we're really going to be out there in the community asking folks to do their best and really continue the good work that they did last year as well. So we can move on to the next slide. I was hoping today to just provide a general update on the governor's executive order issued on March 28th. A lot of the reasoning behind the issuance of this executive order was some frustration on behalf of the administration with progress on water usage across the state. In January, my understanding is that water usage actually was up compared to prior years. So what the governor did was take some actions that he could. Some of those impacting Santa Rosa are the fact that the administration directed utilities to submit a preliminary annual water supply and demand assessment by June 1st of 2022. I did provide an update to this board a few months back that there's a new annual water supply and demand assessment that's required every year. And that was due on July 1st. So there'll be a preliminary version of that report that's to be submitted by June 1st. Our staff is tracking this requirement, yet to receive the full set of tables and everything to submit, but we are planning to be prepared to meet that deadline. And then further, he instructed that all urban water suppliers should institute shortage plans consistent with an up to 20% conservation target. As you know, we've been impacted by drought longer than other parts of the state. So this area is already at that target right now. And then what's gotten a lot of press is this non-functional turf ban for irrigation. So he's instructed the State Water Resource Control Board to define non-functional turf and put together some emergency regulations to ban irrigation of these areas in the commercial, institutional, and irrigation customer classes. An emergency draft of those regulations has been released, and there's actually a workshop going on right now, and we have staff attending that, and we'll continue to provide updates to this board on how we'll proceed if this goes into play. The plan at the moment is to enact some sort of emergency regulations by the end of next month. I can't, but there's a workshop coming up here pretty shortly. Go to the next slide. Further, the executive order did have some measures to help address the existing drought. Those included streamlined permitting for groundwater recharge projects. So projects that may already be in the process of getting permits, there's a streamlined permitting opportunity to get those projects into play faster. Interestingly, it requires a consultation with your local groundwater sustainability agency for new private well permits. And those are for private wells that are above 2 acre-feet of annual water usage per year. So in this instance, Sonoma County is the permitting agency, so they would need to, before issuing a permit, have some sort of assurances from the local groundwater sustainability agency that any new well is consistent with the groundwater sustainability plans that are enacted in that region. So that there will be some additional hurdles to get over if folks want to put it in a private well. So just to note, municipal wells would not be subject to this requirement. So that's an important note to make as well. And then further, there's some provisions that help with the potential for emergency water hauling for failing water systems due to the drought. And resources will be added to the State Water Resources Control Board to ensure their ability to enforce illegal diversions against illegal diversion of water in rivers and streams. And then there'll be calls for expedited agency approvals for actions that are specific to protecting fish and wildlife during this drought. We go ahead and go to slide number 7. I did also want to note there was some coverage in the Press Democrat, I believe last week. The State Water Resource Control Board did host a workshop to discuss how they would proceed with water right curtailments this year. Last year, there were some challenges given kind of the situation going on in Lake Mendocino and the Upper Russian River. And ultimately, the State Water Resource Control Board issued blanket curtailments across the Russian River watershed that were very impactful to a lot of agricultural communities and as well as other municipalities that derive their water from the Upper Russian Rivers particularly. And that was done through an emergency rulemaking. And those curtailments under that emergency rulemaking were suspended last winter. And they remain suspended into May, but it is looking very likely, or not really likely, it is going to happen, is that the state board is looking to re-adopt emergency regulations in the coming months. Curtailment notices went out in March to approximately 2,500 water right holders in the Russian River watershed. That's the upper and lower. State board presented information on a revised water availability analysis and projections. This year is a little bit better than last year, but still definitely looking at the very much likelihood of folks not getting the water that they typically would be used to in a normal water year. And then interestingly, they are proposing the implementation of voluntary water user agreements. A lot of the details still need to be fleshed out, but the proposal is to allow senior water right holders to take conservation measures on their properties or where they take water, and allow for some of that water to become available for junior right holders in the watershed. So those junior right holders who would typically be the first to be curtailed could make use of perhaps some surplus water that would be made available through voluntary agreements. The proposed adoption of these revised emergency regulations is on May 10th, so coming up next month. But I do want to highlight that where we receive our water from Sonoma Water, their deliveries will be governed by the temporary change order that exists right now. And then, of course, as I've mentioned before, Sonoma Water is looking to file another 6-month temporary urgent change petition and receive an order going through the remainder of the year. So while this would be impactful to the region, it would not necessarily have any impacts on our ability to receive water from Sonoma Water under their storage and water rights. Next slide. And then this is a fun slide. I'm very excited. We are definitely getting out in the community again. And there's several events and workshops where we'll be participating in a variety of ways. The Water Smart Insect Investigation Workshop at Bear Farm, which is going to be offered in bilingual in English and Spanish, is occurring on May 14th from 11 to 2. You can sign up for that workshop at srcity.org/watersmartworkshops. It is being sponsored by Santa Rosa Water and coordinated through Daily Acts. We also have our eco-friendly garden tour with several of the gardens that are going to be on display being here in Santa Rosa. It is once again a virtual online tour this year. That will be occurring on May 14th as well. You can sign up for that at savingwaterpartnership.org/eco-friendly garden tour. And then the Santa Rosa Water will be out at the City Works Festival to commemorate the return of the Santa Rosa Wednesday night market on May 18th. And I believe I might have the wrong time there. So I'm looking at that time, it doesn't seem correct. So you may want to check on that, but you can find out more information on WednesdayNightMarket.com. And then a wildfire preparedness event is occurring at Courthouse Square on May 21st. Details to come on that as well. But we plan to be present there talking about water use efficiency, as well as the hydration station, which hasn't been out for a couple of years. So we're very excited about that too as well. Next slide. Oh, I realize it's 5 to 8:30 for the Wednesday night market. So apologies for that mistake on my slide. So finally, Santa Rosa Water is here to help you save. You can go to srcity.org/watersmart or look for the latest drought updates, srcity.org/savewater. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Deputy Director Martin. Any questions or comments from the board? All right, then we'll open it up for public comments on item 5.1. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Atha?
We have no public comments.
Great, thank you. We'll move to the consent calendar. There are 4 items on the consent calendar. If nobody wishes to pull any of them, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move that we adopt the consent calendar.
I will second.
Second.
Wait 2 seconds.
I think we have a motion by Board Member Wright and a second by Board Member Walsh. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, if not, we'll open it up for public comments on items 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, and 6.4. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Atha?
There are no public comments.
All right, and may we have a roll call vote, please?
Chair Galvin,
Aye.
Vice Chair Arnone,
Sorry, aye.
Board Member Grable,
Aye.
Board Member Walsh,
Aye.
Board Member Wright.
Aye.
That carries with 5 ayes.
Thank you very much. That takes care of the consent calendar. We will now move to item 7.1, which is a report item. Director Burke.
Thank you, Chair Galvin and members of the board. I'm actually going to introduce both item 7.1 and 7.2 right now because there's one presentation, but you will be acting on them individually. So we will have a report item on our fiscal year 2022-23 water and local wastewater operations and maintenance and capital improvement budgets, a recommendation to City Council. And then item 7.2 is our fiscal year 2022-23 regional water reuse system operations and maintenance, capital improvement and debt service budget and allocation of costs recommendation to City Council. And making the presentation will be Nick Harvey, our administrative analyst.
Thanks, Director Burke, and good afternoon, Chair Galvin, members of the board. Today, we're going to be going over the 2022-23 fiscal year budget to request a recommendation to City Council. Just for your information, the proposed budget does remain consistent with Deputy Director's Zunino's study session that was brought forth on April 7th. Before I get into the actual presentation, I just want to touch on a couple housekeeping items. As Director Burke said, we provide 2 staff reports and resolutions for the budget because of the need to take the regional budget to City Council prior to the formal budget adoption so that we can notify our partners of the preliminary approved allocations by May of each year. And we provide you with one presentation so you can see the budget as a whole, since the wastewater fund does provide Santa Rosa Water's portion of the regional budget. And at the end of the presentation, I'll go ahead and recommend or request rather each recommendation separately. Next slide, please. So today we're going to go over all 3 of our enterprise operating reserves, budgets, reserves, CIP, planned appropriations, and our regional partner allocations. And then we'll finish up with the budget schedule. Next slide, please. So these are the O&M categories we're expecting rather our largest year-over-year increases in the expenditure budget. The MOU COLAs, wellness payments, and various component failures at the treatment plant, as well as the general climate of that we're seeing in the rising cost for goods and services, as well as our environmental compliance requirements out at the plant, are all contributing to the increases we're seeing here, as explained by Deputy Director Zunino at the last meeting. And the last item there is the increase in the purchase of water, and just a note that we'll be reviewing those increases in a later slide. Next slide, please. Our proposed staffing changes for the next fiscal year have been preliminarily approved by the city's executive team, and these are the increases we'll expect if ultimately approved by City Council. Next slide, please. So this is a high-level fund-by-fund view of the overall impact of the increases to each of our enterprise operating funds, with the largest obviously being in the sub-regional fund as a result of the O&M projects and professional service increases due to the addition of uncontrolled increases as discussed on the previous slide. Next slide, please. So this is our total anticipated O&M budget for Santa Rosa Water as a whole, so all the funds. And these numbers haven't changed since you last saw them. Next slide, please. So as previously explained by Deputy Director Zunino, we're expecting water use to remain flat year over year due to drought reductions, with a 6% increase to the wholesale water rate as passed by Sonoma Water. As a reminder, though, Santa Rosa Water did develop our current rate schedule based on a 6% increase by Sonoma Water. So this is already incorporated in our long-range financial model and won't have an effect on our customers. Next slide, please. So this graphic represents a proposed O&M expenditure budget by category for the water operating fund. Next, please. And then this graphic represents the O&M expenditure budget by category as well for the local sewer operating fund. Next slide, please. And this graphic represents the overall expenditure budget by category for the regional operating fund. This is reflective of the budgeted $5.4 million of projected miscellaneous revenues expected to be collected in the regional enterprise. And those are revenues that collected that go directly to the regional fund and removed from the O&M allocations to the partners. An increase is required in the O&M reserves to achieve a 15% reserve per policy, which is shown in here as well. And we've also included debt service in this total. The allocation of these total expenses to the partners will be shown on a later slide. Next slide, please. So each year now, we like to show you the revenue to expenditure slides, which you'll see indicate higher expenditures and revenues. On the water side, this is due to the decrease in revenue from the drought, as well as the increased expenditures related to the drought as well. And we're proposing the use of undesignated fund balance to cover this, which avoids the need to impact our customers' rates. Next slide, please. So the wastewater fund has the same need to cover expenditures as shown here. And we propose providing the same coverage from fund balance with no effect to customer rates. I will point out that you also see Santa Rosa Water's contribution to the regional fund on this slide, because it is our local wastewater fund that pays for Santa Rosa Water's contributions to the regional system. Next slide, please. And here's a summary of the reserve balances in each of Santa Rosa Water's 3 enterprise operating funds. And these are as of June 30th, 2021. So finance adjusts these after each fiscal year end as of that fiscal year end. And as explained at our last meeting, the good news is that while we see increases in O&M budgets and reductions in revenue this year, we have sufficient amount of undesignated fund balance to cover them without adverse impacts to our ratepayers. And all of our other reserve balances remain at the existing policy levels. And then we can jump ahead 2 slides, Roberta, if we could. Thank you. So now we're going to go over the regional contribution allocations in our regional system to ourselves and the partner agencies. And so this chart provides a total budget except debt service that's allocated to the partners. It includes our O&M budget, the CIP budget, the increase to the O&M reserve to keep our reserve level at the target 15% of expenditures balance, as well as the removal of the miscellaneous revenue from the O&M budgeted expenditures. So the very bottom number, the 44.65 million, is the net amount of regional expenditures to be allocated to us, as well as the partner agencies, after netting out the miscellaneous revenues that we mentioned in a previous slide. Next slide, please. So this chart provides all the proposed budget expenditures for our regional system, which includes CIP and debt service figures. Each of the various components of the total expenditures are distributed in different ways as defined by the sub-regional agreement. O&M costs are distributed based on the last full year of actual wastewater flows to the Laguna treatment plant. And we determine the total O&M expenditure budget, net out the budgeted miscellaneous revenues as discussed, and add the additional reserve to meet that 15% requirement. And then we allocate those costs based on the percentage of flow by each partner agency. The CIP budget is allocated by percentages as defined in the agreement, and our debt service payments are based on the projects that debt was issued for. This year, some of the partners are going to apply some of their refund reserve to lower their net increases. While this isn't part of the budget approval, because the partners may choose how to use their portion of the reserve, and how it affects their own rates. I pointed out because Santa Rosa Water is proposing the use of $400,000 from that reserve, which was reflected on our revenue to expenditure slide. Next slide, please. And we're going to touch on the capital improvement program for the upcoming fiscal year. Next slide, please. So this slide just gives you an idea of the significant scope of our system that our staff work each and every day to maintain and deliver quality service to our ratepayers. Just a reminder of all the assets out there that we're responsible for and we maintain and make significant investments for each year. Next slide, please. So this chart gives you the proposed water CIP budget broken out by project category. As a reminder, the project details were provided to you at the study session on April 7th. Those CIP funding sheets reflect our 5-year spending plan for the CIP budget. However, the only recommendation that goes forward for consideration to City Council is year 1. City Council only approves and appropriates the year 1 funding, and all the future years are essentially a planning tool for internal purposes. Next slide, please. And here's the proposed local wastewater CIP budget broken out by project category. Very obvious that we're looking at sewer trunks as a main priority in the local sewer system for 22-23. Next slide, please. And finally, the proposed regional CIP budget by category. I'll point out that this year the CIP is $9 million of cash funding. And as we have been for several years, we've been increasing the CIP, the planned CIP appropriations for the regional system by $1 million year over year as agreed upon by the partners. And it's also important to note that this slide doesn't include regional's largest CIP project, that being the UV disinfection system replacement project. We're going to council later this month to appropriate the remainder of our 2020 wastewater bond funds prior to the construction contract being brought to you for award. As this will be a mid-year appropriation, it's not reflected in the fiscal year 22-23 budget totals, but we thought it important to point that out to you all. Next slide, please. And our budget schedule. So as we look forward, hopefully we're getting your recommendation to City Council today. It will go, the regional budget will go to City Council on April 26th for the preliminary approval of the regional budget for the purposes of notifying our regional partner agencies of their allocations by May 1st. Be going to Council on May 10th and 11th for the budget study sessions, and hopefully having our budget adopted by City Council on June 21st. Next slide, please. Okay, and due to the need to separate the two recommendations, as a reminder, I'm going to first request the first recommendation, and after Chairman Galvin completes the comment and voting period, I'll come back with a second recommendation for the proposed regional budget. And with that said, it is recommended by Santa Rosa Water and the Budget Review Subcommittee that the Board of Public Utilities by resolution recommend that the City Council approve the fiscal year 2022-23 Water Fund and Local Wastewater Fund operations, maintenance, and capital expenditure appropriation requests.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harvey. At this time, I'll open it up for any board member questions or comments on item 7.1. All right, seeing none, I'll ask for a motion on item 7.1, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Board of Public Utilities by resolution recommend the City Council approve the fiscal year 2023 Water Fund and Local Wastewater Fund operations and maintenance and capital expenditure appropriation requests.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Board Member Walsh and a second by Board Member Grable. At this time, we will open it up for public comments on item 7.1. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Atha, do we have anyone?
We have no public comments.
All right, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Chair Galvin,
Aye.
Vice Chair Arnone,
Aye.
Board Member Grable,
Aye.
Board Member Walsh,
Aye.
and Board Member Wright.
Aye.
That carries with 5 ayes.
Thank you. We'll now move to item 7.2 and open it up for any board member questions or comments. I'm sorry, Mr. Harvey, did you want to do the recommendation on item 7.2?
Absolutely. Thank you. It's recommended by Santa Rosa Water, the Subregional Wastewater Technical Advisory Committee, and the Budget Review Subcommittee that the Board of Public Utilities by resolution recommend that the City Council approve the preliminary fiscal year 2022-23 regional water reuse system operations and maintenance, capital improvement, and debt service budgets and allocation of costs for the purposes of notifying the regional water reuse agencies of their allocation of such costs by May of 2022.
Thank you. With that, I'll now open it up for any board member questions or comments. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that the Board of Public Utilities by resolution recommend that the City Council approve the preliminary fiscal year 2022-2023 regional water reuse system operations and maintenance, capital improvement and debt service and allocation of costs for purposes of notifying the regional water reuse user agencies of their allocation of such by May 2022.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Board Member Walsh, seconded by Board Member Wright. At this time, we'll open it up for public comments on item 7.2. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Atha,
There are no public comments.
may we have a roll call vote, please?
Chair Galvin,
Aye.
Vice Chair Arnone,
Aye.
Board Member Grable,
Aye.
Board Member Walsh.
Aye.
Board Member Wright.
Aye.
That carries with 5 ayes.
Great. Thank you all. And Mr. Harvey, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you for your time.
Very well done. Item 8 is public comments on non-agenda items. If you wish to make a public comment, please dial or comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Atha, do we have anyone?
We do not.
Okay, that'll take care of public comments. We have no referrals. We have no written communications. I don't believe we have any subcommittee reports. Does anybody have a subcommittee report? No. Board member reports? Anyone? Very good. We will move to the director's report.
Thank you, Chair Galvin and members of the board. I have a few items to update you on. Pardon me. First, Sonoma Water, in response to immediate and future drought relief needs, is advancing its efforts to upgrade existing production wells in the Santa Rosa Plain groundwater basin. So in support of this effort, Santa Rosa Water has helped facilitate a connection to our sewer system that will allow the well water that is flushed during startup and other maintenance activities to be treated at the Laguna Wastewater Treatment Plant. And this is also a benefit for us because we can beneficially reuse the water for our customers. So I'll just let the board know about that. That has occurred. Second, I wanted to let the board know about a new contest that we will be unveiling. So beginning April 20th and lasting through July 8th, Santa Rosa Water will be holding a contest to encourage customers to sign up for our new Water Smart portal. The contest will be promoted on social media, bill inserts, and digital advertising. After the contest window ends on July 8th, we will be picking 5 registered Water Smart portal user accounts. They will be randomly selected to win a $200 credit on their water bill. Early adopters and those that have already registered will also be included in the contest. And please note, there are certain rules and requirements in that city employees and I believe board members are not eligible for the contest. The Water Smart portal allows customers to track their hourly, daily, weekly, and monthly water use and create customized notifications for high usage. This tool has become very useful for engagement of customers during the drought and improves the interaction with our water billing and water use efficiency staff to help our customers save water. So if you're interested, Customers can go to srcity.org/watersmartportal to sign up today, and we highly encourage folks to do so. I also wanted to remind the board that this Saturday is our Earth Day event, and that'll be from 11 to 2 at Courthouse Square. It's a family fun event, and we encourage folks to come on out and participate in our Earth Day event. And then last, I wanted to recognize one of our longstanding employees who we are very happy for him that he will be retired, but it will be a big loss to the water department. So Alistair Blyfus came to the city in 2000 as a temporary professional working on the water conservation team, and then moved to the stormwater and creeks team as a civil engineering technician. He was promoted to environmental specialist in 2002 to serve as the first creek stewardship coordinator and is responsible for creating our vibrant and thriving creek stewardship program. For 20 years, Alistair has led this partnership between Sonoma Water and the city to educate the public on the benefits of creeks, inspire volunteers to protect water quality and wildlife habitat, improve the creek trail system, and enhance public safety along the 100 miles of creeks in the city. It's hard to capture what a force for good and inspiration Alistair has been in this community. He is so well known and beloved that when other members of the city's creek staff meet with members of the community, they are usually met with the phrase, "Oh, do you work with Alistair?" Another thing Alistair is known for is his extensive data tracking. So in honor of that, here are some stats for just a few of his many accomplishments. In Alistair's career here, he has reached and engaged over 120,000 people in our community, harnessing 73,000 volunteer hours, leading to the removal of 13,000 cubic yards of trash and debris from Santa Rosa's creeks. That's enough to fill 464 garbage trucks. Alistair will be missed, not just by his colleagues in the city, but by the thousands of local community members he has inspired to help keep our creeks clean. It's been my honor and privilege to work with Alistair, and I wish him all the best in his retirement. And that is my director's report, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Director Burke. Any questions or comments for the director? Board Member Wright?
Well, congratulations to Alistair. I work with him also. Alistair's a good guy. He will be missed. Also, Director Burke, does Sonoma Water believe that all their wells will be online for this summer with their projects, or what's the status of that?
It's my understanding that we believe that, or they believe they'll have 2 of them online for this summer, and they're working very hard to have the 3rd one potentially up and running by the fall. And that's a very tentative timeline.
Thank you.
Any other board member questions or comments? Board Member Walsh?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just too want to also thank Alistair Blyfus for his excellent work in his career, helping people keep our environment in order and enjoy the creeks. It's a big deal to have people appreciate that. And his influence will carry on for a long time through others. And for that, I'm thankful.
Thank you for your comment. Any other board member questions or comments for the director? All right, we will now take public comments on item number 13. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Etha?
There are no public comments.
All right, that concludes our agenda. So I would like to adjourn our meeting in honor of Alistair Blyfus. May he have a long and healthy retirement, and we will miss him, and good luck. So with that, we stand adjourned. See you in May.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, folks.